Hello and welcome to Momentum 101. I'm Alistair Body, Business Development Director here at Momentum Broker Solutions. I've been supporting startups for over 11 years now, and I've worked in the UK insurance market for in excess of 20 years. In that time, the world of insurance and broking has changed dramatically, which has created ultimately more and more opportunities for the entrepreneurial account exec to fulfill their dreams of becoming their own boss. Today, I'm joined by two independent brokers who have made that step quite recently, in fact. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Richard Morris from Olympus Insurance down in Devon and Rob Wardle from Osprey Insurance Brokers up in Wigan. So thank you very much, gents. Cheers for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You can chill out now. It'll be okay, I can assure you. I appreciate this is the first time for you both, and I'm very, very grateful for you joining us. So cheers, gents. So let's just sort of start up from the beginning. So over the next 20 minutes or so, what the plan and the intention from today is really just exploring how Richard and Rob have built their businesses, the advice they'd share, and the opportunities, obviously, they've embraced on the way. So we'll start off, if you don't mind, Richard and Rob. We'll start with you, Richard. Could you give us a quick sense of your background and how those experiences helped prepare you to ultimately go independent and start your own brokerage?
Sure. Well, after I left university 15 years ago, I went straight into finance. Wasn't too sure which way to go. Stumbled my way through that for nearly a decade, and then found myself with the NFU Mutual some 5 years ago. That was kind of the beginning of this journey in insurance. Spent 2 years there, moved to a commercial broker down in Devon, where I really came into the light, understood the differences between working for a composite insurer effectively and then moving into broking. After working there for 3 years, I just got the fire in me, and saw Alistair's post a few times on LinkedIn and reached out to him. After that, it's probably taken about a year of him convincing me it was all going to be fine, and here we are.
Well, you kept answering the calls, Rich, so I'll pass some of that responsibility on to you, and you can thank me later as the joke goes. But
thank you.
I mean, you're relatively new to insurance, Richard. You've been in insurance 5-6 years, I think it is, from recollection.
Correct. Yep.
Quite fresh in regards to a lot of people who are sort of taking this step. Does that seem to bother you?
Well, in reality, I think if you don't have the support, it would. A big part of the choice I made with Momentum over some of the other networks there was the support I saw in the systems behind just Alistair as well. I got to meet the wider team. Not only that, I had many recommendations, not from insurers only, but from other ARs as well. Word of mouth generally in the industry as Momentum would be there to support someone who maybe lacked a little bit of years on that experience. Hopefully the ability's there, but for me, it was a worry at the start, but that worry's been quickly extinguished. Within the first week or two now I've been trading, I haven't got off the phone with all the Momentum guys. They've constantly been on the case, and I've been made to feel very, very comfortable. I'll put it that way.
That's absolutely fabulous. Now, Rob, you've been us for a bit longer than that. How, to give us a little bit of a feel for your background, experience, and how the hell you found yourself here today?
Yeah, well, just like many others, I fell into insurance about 19 years ago, having a multitude of jobs following leaving school. And I went through high street broker, from there on to commercial broker that I worked at for sort of 8-9 years, applying my trade. Probably then when I was sort of in my mid-20s, I realised I wanted to do my own thing. But then, like everything else, life got in the way, and it's just that fear of taking the jump. And then I've sort of gone from the big corporate names to the smaller independent brokers, and then lastly, a big couple of consolidators, and it was just the writing was on the wall. Really, it was just everything was the same. It was just a different name above the door. So finally decided to take the leap.
So obviously, what was the point for you then, Rob? Come to you in a minute, Rich. But what was the point for you when you thought, you know what, now's the time, I want to make this happen?
I think I alluded to before. It's for me, everywhere was pretty much the same. It was just a different name above the door. I feel like I've sort of pride myself on quite old school morals, going to sort of see people and look after them properly, no matter what the premium or the commission income may be. And a lot of brokers don't sort of share the same views anymore. I don't think. And in the end, I just thought, I just wanted to do things my way and sort of take it back to how it used to be. And I think there's definitely a niche in the market for sort of smaller independent ARs, a bit like the same way that MGAs are sort of burst onto the scenes and took a lot of business off the big insurers who have sort of let their services fall by the wayside slightly as well. I just think this is a decent opportunity. So it was there's always a time to put it off, but it was just one of them. You just have to take the leap eventually.
Yeah, brilliant. Rich, yourself, what was that moment for you when you thought now's the time?
Well, a similar situation to Rob, really. The company I worked for went through a consolidation. The name was going above the door, and at that moment, I just thought, this is the time. Clients love people, I think, and ultimately, I was losing that identity. I felt moving from one company to the next, and I wanted to create my own image. And the moment kind of happened when I knew the business was being sold. We were moving into a big label company, and the moment for me really was to try and stamp my own name into the industry. And that was it, really. It just hit me like it was a moment of clarity where I just thought, I've got to do it now. Otherwise, I'll be on the cycle. And the moment was to go for it then.
So what did you see as the initial barriers for you, Rich?
Into becoming an AR?
Or just starting your own business?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the compliance side of insurance was a big factor in that. Obviously, our industry is very regulated. So for me, that was a big barrier. Whether I would be in a position to react to all the changes with regulatory issues that always come up, that for me was the biggest barrier. Broking, I enjoy that part. I know I can do that bit. But the issues around the systems, controls, and compliance, that was my main worry, which, again, Momentum had put at rest very quickly.
How did you deal with trying to get yourself in a position where you were comfortable around, 12-month covenant, getting yourself financially secure for that first 12 months? What was your approach to that got you in a position where you said, actually, that's okay, I can make that work?
Sure. That was an open conversation I had with you guys from the outset, along with other AR networks. Obviously, I did my due diligence at the start. But for me, that factor of, getting the finance together, that was a massive key for me not to worry about my covenants. I needed to know that I can sustain this first 12-month period, but also have that comfort in the backing for the marketing as well, just to get my name out there. And Momentum worked with me on a solution for that, which has really worked out well.
And Rob, thanks for that, Rich. Rob, you must be sitting there sort of thinking you're sitting in an echo chamber thinking this sounds a bit like the same challenges you had. What was the moment for you, and how have you sort of dealt with those early challenges?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, I wanted to do this for for a while, but that it's having that this sort of safety net really, which is what I mean. I've got 4 kids, mortgage and all the things that go with that. So it's I've always sort of backed myself, and I knew I could do it. But realistically, I sort of needed that safety net that if I did, something went wrong over a few months, that we wouldn't be living on the streets basically. So again, we had that conversation, and it was straight away it was pretty clear that you guys had my back, and if I needed it, then there would be something there to fall back on. So it was just I sat down, had a discussion with the wife about that, and it was just an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. And what do you see as the initial barriers? Obviously, you touched a little bit around the finance there, but what else?
I mean, the finance was the main one for me, as I just alluded to. But I think it's not really. I mean, a 12-month covenant, but I know that I do often get referrals throughout the year, which natural anyway. So that was again, it wasn't really a barrier, and a lot of my clients, they sort of say like, what's a company called that you work for? Because you just see me as sort of Rob the insurance guy. They don't know me from the brokers that I've worked at from one day to the next. So it was important for me as well, because as I alluded to previously, that Rich said that I've done my due diligence. I've spoken to other AR networks as well. and obviously got quite far down the line, Alistair, as we know, with another one. But having your own company, being your master of your own destiny, some of those other networks, they sort of take that away from you quite a lot, sort of in the small print or so. It's like it would be my name above the door, but it would, I don't actually have any say in certain things, which didn't really suit me. So I think it was just, again, you have to sort of be right on everyone's terms, and Momentum just fit the bill in that scenario.
I mean, you both had options when as you say, you both did your due diligence. What was the rationale for going one way or the other? Let's start with you, Rob.
For me, it was, we, like I say, I was quite far down the line with another network, and it just sort of was going slower and slower, and I began to get quite frustrated with how things are going. I happened to just get an inbox via LinkedIn from yourself, gave you a call. We were on the phone for about 45 minutes. I think I got more from you in 45 minutes than I'd had sort of 6-7 months from this other network I was speaking to. The next day, we jumped on a call with Howard, the MD, and John from finance. And it was literally, it's like a breath of fresh air. We talked about the sort of finance that might be required if everything didn't go to plan. Howard sort of sat there and said, we don't want anything from you in terms of shares in the company or anything like that, which again, the other network wanted to take half of the business from me. So it was just, it was just incredibly lucky that you sent me that LinkedIn message, to be fair, but it was just an absolute no-brainer in the end when it came to choosing which network.
Brilliant. And Rich, you took a little bit longer. I was going to say either I didn't explain myself so well or you're a slower learner, but you obviously had a slightly longer process to go through yourself. But what was the moment for you, when you said you've got options, that's the option you want to take?
Yeah, well, I think, like Rob said, the options were important. I think I needed to know that I was comparing what was out there, what was going to best suit me. But in the same scenario, the guys wanted equity for financial support, which was a bit of a big ask. As a startup, you want to kind of retain that as much as possible. That wasn't the only reason. I went a little bit further and spoke to some composites, rather high up guys who know Momentum quite well, and I kind of threw the names out of the other networks, and I had some really good feedback, basically with the work that you guys do and how that's translated into the market. And it wasn't just the finance for me; it was how the big guys in the industry react to Momentum. Their initial thoughts were, "Mate, they're number one. You've got to choose them." And for me, hearing that from the people I deal with all the time, that was a massive factor in my decision.
Absolutely brilliant. You both talked around equity and obviously potentially giving equity away. And one of the things which we all start to say right from the start is think long and hard before doing so. Now, granted, we're happy to provide equity solutions, and that's not something we wouldn't do. But both of you have come to the conclusion of not doing that. Whilst you're still very early days into setting up your brokerages. I'll start with you, Rob, if you don't mind. How happy are you that you've decided not to do that?
Oh yeah, unbelievably. It's it's such, I don't want to talk too ill of the network, but it was a really sort of close call, because it'd been dragged on for so long. It sort of got to the point where I just wanted to get it over. So I would have, pretty much almost just signed away because I was so desperate to go on my own. But yeah, that's just so fortuitous that message came through for yourself on LinkedIn, and I think now sort of doing it on a daily basis, running my own company and just doing things the way that I want to do it, how I want to do it, when I want to do it. It is just, I just feel really, really, really lucky and privileged, to be fair, that we had that conversation because like I say, I think, doing it any other way, it would have felt just like working for another big company, which is what I was trying to avoid. So yeah, for me, it was just it's really good timing, to be fair, that we did that.
Excellent. Rich, your sort of situation, thoughts around equity?
Yeah, again, same really. The freedom in the ownership was the key thing for me. I felt like I needed to own this thing, otherwise I'd be working for someone else. And all these other guys in the network, they were asking for a lot. And, you get what you pay for in life. And the way that momentum works, you do see a lot for your money. But in regards to the equity, it was a no-brainer. When that offer was there, it just made a lot of sense. And I could see the end game for momentum as well, and what they wanted to do with me. It wasn't just an asset play. It wasn't just a quick in, quick out kind of thing. It was right. Let's do this right, and you've made that very easy for me from the very start.
Brilliant. We typically do these sessions with individuals who have been trading for 6 months plus, probably most of the time, to be fair, sort of 12 months on. But here we are, gents. Rob, you're a month and a bit in. Rich, you're second, third week of trading, and must feel kind of raw. And to be fair, I think it potentially gives those watching and listening some real insight into the raw goings on of launching a new insurance brokerage. So, we'll start with you if you don't mind, Rob. How does it feel right now?
Yes, it's good. I've had a really fast start, to be fair. September was probably the busiest month I've had in my career, which was just crazy. It happened to be the same month that started on my own. Sort of referrals just came through thick and fast, and I've sort of done more in September than I could ever have dreamed of. So it's sort of.
Sorry, Rob, we lost you there when you said you couldn't have dreamed of a start the way it was.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So I couldn't have dreamed of a better start, really. But now I'm just playing catch up with all of the things that come with running a business. But it's a bit quieter this month. But no, it's there's going to be tough times and sleepless nights. I'm not naive enough to think that it's going to go well all the time. But it's just it just makes it so much better when it's yours, and it just gives you that extra sort of that extra bit of responsibility, really, that you're responsible for it. And but yeah, I absolutely love it. I wish I'd done it sooner, as everyone who comes on these podcasts says. I've listened to every single one of them, and it's just true. I just wish I'd done it earlier.
Brilliant. And Rich, you're obviously got about a month behind Rob. How's it feel for you?
Yeah, amazing. It's been when I started off maybe 3 years ago with the firm I worked at before I started here, I had a real good feeling about the way we worked, and I hadn't had that feeling towards the end. When you did a deal, you felt like that rush, that feeling of ownership to a point. But yeah, only a week in, I've been able to write a couple deals, and the feeling is like no other I've ever had. You got ownership of it, your company name's on there, and when it all goes through, the client calls you to say thank you, and there's a sense of ownership, and the buck stops with me, and that responsibility doesn't wane on me too much. Now I'm with Momentum as much as I thought it would, but look, a week in, it is something I wish I'd have done a lot sooner, to use the phrase of everyone else.
It is always the way, but we all have our reservations. The monkey on the shoulder, the old imposter syndrome, call it whatever you like. You will be no different, Rich. You've had reservations, you've had fears, you've had worries, etc. Are they all sort of put to rest, or is there, or are you just starting to become a little bit more accepting of those?
Absolutely, yeah, no, definitely. I think after a bit of time, this will start to feel a little bit more natural. It's definitely still got the honeymoon phase. Look, I'm a week in, so it certainly is a little bit different. I've got to get used to all the systems. There are, some niggling thoughts, where are these new business inquiries going to come through, and but I think after a bit of time, that's all going to kind of drop away. Once you've built that book up, I know that once that's happened, it's going to be an entirely different existence for me. But so far, so good.
Look, we are early days, and we've touched on obviously the relationship with Momentum. So how helpful is it having a partner? It is your business; it's 100% yours. You make and break it yourself, Rich. But how important is it to have somebody you can just lean on as and when required to get those answers and just checking it? Actually, it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been one instance where I've not thought I can't reach out to anyone. And again, I think that's one of the big reasons why I chose Momentum. I think you get what you pay for. I think I've mentioned that before. The other AR networks were suggesting maybe different models. But ultimately, I was reminded by a lot of people in the industry that, you know, you do get what you pay for, and Momentum have been there every step of the way. I mean, the team is vast. I didn't realize there were so many people. And no day has gone by where I haven't had a phone call or an email from someone in the team just to reach out and see how I'm doing, which for me has been amazing.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing you again, well, in person when I'm back down in Devon at the end of October. So, yeah, we'll obviously raise a glass at that point. But that's good to hear. I mean, the first few months are important for you, Rich. You know, what are your biggest priorities now?
Frankly, head down, just keep working. I've got to get the name out there. Obviously, I've got to be getting this marketing. Be working with the team. You guys have given me a lot of assistance with that. Again, that's something we had to outsource where I used to work. So to have that, you know, that access to that team, they've been amazing. So priority is just to get my name out there, get these wins through, and just keep on working. You know, I'm just looking forward to the next 12 months where, you know, I can just kind of solidify the name, and then referrals after that point. You know, we all know people buy from people. So it's just getting this first quarter done, I think, and then after that, I think after Christmas, it's gonna kick off. I got a good feeling.
Fabulous. That sounds very, very positive. What about you, Rob? What's your priorities? Obviously, you've had a fantastic September. Are you just putting your feet up now, or is there some real mission to duplicate that?
No. There's no rest for the wicked. I mean, you've got to make hay while the sun shines. But no, I'm still at it, and I won't. I just won't stop, because that's just not who I am. But yeah, I mean, I'll just to go back on touching a point that Rich said there. The back, one of my, I didn't mention before, but one of sort of my biggest reservations was I've always been involved in my own broking, and because I believe I'm good at it, basically, and having that sort of, you have to relinquish that momentum. But, you know, I've had some inquiries that have come in sort of at the death that need turning around really quickly, some quite complex stuff as well. And I can't speak highly enough of the brokers at Momentum. They have, you know, they've turned stuff around quickly when I've needed it. They come back to you about everything. They pick up the phone. It's been that has put one of the biggest worries to bed, to be honest with you, because that was something that did used to bug me. But no, we're not slowing down at all. Full speed ahead, and from now until Christmas, then a couple of days off, then and we go again.
Just the two, yeah. Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and then back to it.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
Fair enough. And Rich, look, you know, it's still very, very early days for you. But you know, what's your take now on being employed as an account exec for a brokerage? Now, never say never, clearly, but the whole concept of you taking a salary of X and expect to deliver income of 3 or 4 times that. What's your sort of take on that now that you're broken free from that?
Well, I think after, you know, 3 or 4 years working in that role, you know, you build a book up, and it gets to that stage, and you look at the dashboard, you look at the income, you look at the salary, and obviously, you know, you get that support from the start when you build the book if you don't inherit one, which I didn't. And then to see that, you know, growing and growing and growing, it feels disconnected after a while. I think there's only so long you can work as an ambitious exec without having kind of ownership over it, because you do effectively take ownership of it without legal ownership of it. And
so, clients, your relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, people. Like I said it before, people buy from people. They didn't buy from the brand. Whether I worked at the previous company I worked with or the one before, they always bought into the person at the end of the phone. Because at the end of the day, we sell something which people, you know, they have to believe in. And, you know, now I've got my own company and Momentum support. For me, it's a completely different mindset now. You know, when I closed the first deal on the first day, actually on the launch, I was ecstatic. I hadn't had that feeling for years in the industry, probably not since I really started selling commercial insurance. So for me, that was a key indicator that I've made the right decision.
You'll never forget that moment, will you? I mean, Rob, you must have that similar sort of feeling from the first time you wrote a bit of business in your own name.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no feeling like it. And I think, like Richard just said it, you know, when you're working with someone else as an exec, going from place to place, you know, you can get some big wins, and you know, it's a nice feeling. Don't get me wrong, but when it's one for, you know, for yourself, and you know that someone's put that trust in you, and not sort of like, you know, one of the big names or you know, an independent business that's been established for quite a long time behind it, then it's quite a good feeling of pride, really, and just makes you want to go again, and just keep that feeling going, and the hunger alive.
One of the we had a few conversations about this, both before you resigned and post resignation, Rob. But and it wouldn't be appropriate for us to go into the details clearly. But how was your resignation received from management and your colleagues? How did that go down?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be fair. I think, you know, I've never hid the fact that I've wanted to do this. So for people who know me, it was never a massive surprise. I mean, you know, certain other management people said, you know, you're going to have to work hard. You know, you'll be lonely, you know, and all the rest of it. But it's, you know, it's just take that sort of stuff with a pinch of salt. I knew what I was signing up for, and I would have done it a lot sooner if, you know, if I'd have known these sort of options that were out there, I think. But I mean, you're always going to get. I mean, the thing is, these good account execs are few and far between in our industry. We all know that. So no employer is going to be happy about losing a good account exec, and I have to blow my own trumpet there. But and you know, that's just the short of it. But then again, that was another thing, sort of coming and doing this, and if it did all, you know, go to pot and I failed, I know I could walk into another job quite quickly anyway, just with the way that the industry is and the lack of good people. So yeah, they weren't really very, very pleased, I don't think. But it was, you know, I never sort of said I was thinking about doing it. I just said, I'm doing it, that's it, here's my notice, sort of see you later kind of thing, and that was that.
That's brilliant. And Rich, you no doubt had your own naysayers and those who gave you a high five and wish you all the very best. Was that a good summary, the way Rob put it, in regards to how it went down when you did the same?
Yeah, like Rob said, mixed bag. I think the ambitious ones in the room were quite happy. I didn't make it a secret, to be honest. Even the guys I worked for, you know, even at the interview stage when I started working for them, I told them I had an ambition of doing something like this, and they still hired me. So it wasn't exactly a surprise, but, you know, relatively speaking, you know, I think most people were supportive. The management team of the company that we were being consolidated over to, you know, they made every effort to try and keep me, which felt nice, you know, I guess. So equally, it wasn't a difficult thing in the end. If anything, they just bolstered my resolve. I think they saw something in me where they knew they had a good exec, and like Rob said, there aren't many out there who are just willing to go out above and beyond and bring in the new business consistently. So for me, it just bolstered my resolve, the whole process. I thought it may have swayed me, but yeah, in reality, all it did was just solidify it.
I mean, look, there's always that fear, isn't there, when you leave a role, about what you're turning your back on, what you're leaving behind. And there's a perception that there's a real safety blanket of so many things when it comes to employment with a larger broker. We'll start with you, Rob. Is there anything you miss? Anything that you wish you still had?
No, not really. I think literally within the first few days, all my sort of reservations were put to bed with what I mentioned before, just about how good the brokers were, just straight on the ball. Because I had inquiries coming through thick and fast, and they dealt with them all. And then, you know, I think at the end of the week, I sort of sat there with a glass of wine, and I just thought this 100% the right thing to do. And you know, I think like the only sort of thing that you know you might sort of miss is you know, sort of people in the office, but you know, we all do the same job. We're all on the road, so we catch up as and when, and so you know, so that's not even a part of it anyway. But no, I just there's absolutely no looking back for me now, and it is like I say before, I just wish I'd done it sooner. And I've listened to these podcasts and people say it, and I've always thought, you know what, it's all well and good now. You've been doing it for, you know, a couple of years, and you've had the finance or the backing or something behind you. But yeah, you've just got to, if you think you can do it, you just got to go for it, because like I said before, if it does all fail and you have to go and get a job, you'll get one like that. So just do it, basically.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute about what advice would you give to anybody else looking to start up, Rob? But on the basis you've given that, we'll need another answer. So I'll leave you to come back to think about that one. But in the meantime, going across to you, Rich. I mean, is there anything you miss?
Yeah, look, you missed the team. You gain traction with them, and the camaraderie in the office. There are elements to that, but that's kind of falling on the wayside compared to the benefits. There are things that you relinquish a little bit with momentum. Like Rob said, the broking team was, a question mark for me. Just to see, you spend years getting to know underwriters, and you work well with them. And I was keen to see how that one went. And within a week, we turned around some results, some difficult risks, complicated risks. The turnaround's been quick, but I did think I was going to miss that more than I have. But beyond that, nah, I'm not looking back. There's no way you're going to change my mind about this now.
I mean, that's really, really good to hear. I mean, obviously, ultimately, this is a people business, isn't it, gents? And the people that you work with, some of them will be friends, some of them won't be. But you know what? That was some of the joys of working in the industry we are. So, really, really good point there. So, I mean, we're moving on to the sort of end of this podcast slash webinar, unfortunately. But we'll go to you, Rich, as obviously Rob's already answered this question, but he's going to give us another answer. But, what's that piece of advice to somebody who's thinking, do you know what? I love hearing what Rich and Rob have done here. How do they make it happen for themselves? Rich?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to reach out, ask the question, understand the situation a little bit better. Those question marks around, the certain areas that you're not too sure on, how that would work. I think most people would be concerned about money. I think, ultimately we all go to work to pay the bills and the mortgages. And that was a big factor in my decision. So I think if anyone has, listened to this and that they're thinking about doing it, then reach out to Alistair. You had more answers than I had questions. And that says a lot about you as an individual, I think. So, yeah, I think just reach out. There's no harm in a conversation. And you'll be surprised how quickly it starts to evolve in your mind that this can be a very quick turnaround into your own company.
I'll take that as a compliment. I know they come far and few between with you, to be fair, Rich. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. But I've just actually, whilst you were talking there, thinking about it, it was June 2023 when we had our first conversation. So you know what? It was over 2 years that we've been bouncing back and forth in regards to things. And do you know what? It's a long time for some. For others, we've had people we've spoken to for 7 or 8 years before they finally made the plunge. Probably didn't feel like 2 years, but I suppose you needed, to be fair, Rich, have a little bit of water under the bridge and a few things to happen before the time was right.
Yeah, I know there's a few things for me. The guys I was working with, we got along really well. It was a hard thing for me to walk away from at the time. But also, I was getting traction in an industry which I felt like I was getting a lot of where I was. I've been doing this for 5 years, so I haven't been doing this as long as Rob and a lot of other ARs have done before they started. So, only being a few years into my career when we spoke, Alistair, at the start, I think it was important for me in my journey at that time. But if we'd only spoken, a few weeks ago for the first time, it would have happened a lot faster. But for me, yeah, that was the reason for that.
No, brilliant. Look, Richard, Rob, thanks very much. It's been amazing. I know it's been a very, very quick whirlwind tour of what is two very, very exciting businesses that have, only been trading for a matter of weeks, but exciting times for you both. So on behalf of everybody who's listening and watching this today, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I mean, and for you at home or wherever you are listening and watching, thank you very much. We've heard today about how ultimately having the confidence begin and having the support in place really, really does emphasize how much opportunities obviously independence creates. I mean, if you are thinking about starting your own brokerage, look, I'm sure Rob or Rich, if you reached out to them, would happily have a conversation with you and tell you more about how their journey has been. But get in touch. I'm happy to help and share a little bit more about how you can make this work for yourself. On the screen, hopefully now, thanks to my glamorous assistant, you should see a QR code hopefully coming up, which if you're looking to take that next stage in your career, feel free to just simply book some time in my diary and we'll chat it through. There'll be no sales pitch as Rob and Rich have described. It's just simply giving you the facts and letting you understand exactly what's made available and what the potential is. But if you want to listen and hear more real life stories from our broker partners, just follow our podcast on Momentum Meets, which you can find on Apple or Spotify, or ultimately on our website, momentumsolutions.co.uk/podcast. Take care.